Despite your history, Oni wants us to send you out immediately. Any questions?
A lot of cities have been lost.
That many made it out. And those ships didn't stop it.
Now prepare to deploy, Captain.
Captain, I just lost contact with the defense grid.
Get online!
Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen Fan Film Reviews. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
The real Manos.
Indeed. Now, Manos picked something from just his favorite franchise in the world. Manos is a Halo head, as they call themselves, I'm sure. What are we discussing today, Manos?
We are discussing a Halo fan film. Halo... Something Heaven Earth.
Dawn Under Heaven.
Dawn Under Heaven. Sorry, I did not have it linked. I did not have it queued up when we were discussing this. Dawn Under Heaven.
Yeah. Okay. So this should be one of those interesting cases where I know Manos. I know that he's always the type to be super prepared. Batman could take notes from this guy.
Yeah.
So clearly he thought about it and he made a rational decision for why we would be discussing this, and not because he just randomly looked up fan film and picked the first thing that looked, plausible for us to talk about, right?
Yeah, anything that doesn't look like it's been shot in someone's bedroom.
Yeah, so neither of us are Halo fans.
Correct. Actually, to be fair, I do like to pick things of franchises I don't feel invested in, because I want to see if they can lure me in. And that's happened a couple times while we've been doing this.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the Metroid film, for instance. That got me kind of interested in the character. I won't play it because I don't have time to play video games. But I can appreciate it better now that I've seen that film. And that happens every so often. It sometimes happens because you choose something, but, I do like to go out of my way and pick something I have no, history with or anything like that to see, okay, as a non-fan, let's see if this can, bring me in.
Okay. How'd this do?
It's very, very well shot.
Oh, that's just the worst.
Yes.
Yeah, I this is one of those things where really I don't have much to say about it as far as complaints. Usually when I don't like a thing, I'll be able to pinpoint as to what it's doing wrong, what I feel is its missteps are. Yeah. This, I don't really think it has any significant missteps outside of just regular things that we experience with a lot of fan films, some flat acting here and there. I just personally found this just very boring. I had a really hard time watching this, and it is entirely just on a personal level of this is just not the kind of thing I'm into. Even just not being a Halo fan. I just, this type of, war story kind of thing is just not my jam. I will say, for what it's doing in this kind of, soldiers on a mission for the last desperate hope kind of thing, it's doing it reasonably well. It's not making mistakes in the way it's telling that kind of story. It's a pretty cliched story, but there's really nothing wrong with doing that, especially for a fan film. I personally had a really hard time watching this.
I did as well, and there were times where it was like, maybe it's just because I'm not familiar with this material, so maybe I can't appreciate it as much. But, I do know the basics of Halo. They fight aliens. It's a war thing. It's a soldier thing. It's a military thing. I've seen war films and military stuff that I've liked. So it's like, okay, all right. Starship Troopers is like an example. Mm-hmm. This is like really dry and very monotone. Like a lot of the acting is monotone. There's not too much emotion in the acting and in the writing. It's not just the case of dry actors that can't really pull off like emotions. Like there's no emotion for them to do. There's there's a sequence late in the film where the music really ramps up, and I remember thinking, well, I think I'm supposed to be really excited or worried for these characters because of the music. That's all I got. This thing has a clear beginning, middle, end. There's nothing wrong with the story structure, the pacing. Maybe I shouldn't say the pacing. The pacing is really okay. There's nothing wrong with the story structure. It has a clear beginning, middle, end. It's so procedural. It's very, military porn, the way, we go into all these characters, giving each other orders and, checking the technical things that they're supposed to be doing. But there's no real strong characters for me to latch onto. I know this guy's upset by stuff, but I don't really... I can't really get into that.
And I think part of the disconnect here is I'm not even sure. The way it's set up, it feels like it's in reference to something, like with the little flash we get of the mystery MacGuffin object at the end. It feels like, okay, maybe if I knew more about the Halo games, maybe that's like a really important object, and this is like setting up that this is going to be a big thing. The way the AI character is built up, it seems like that's an important character, and maybe it is maybe that's the character from the games, and the mission goes wrong right at the end here, or who knows what. But it's since I don't have that connection to it, the film has to kind of sell me on it on its own because I don't have the baggage to count on, and. I always go back and forth on it in fan projects because sometimes we'll watch a thing that I'm a big fan of and I know what they're trying to get at, even if they don't necessarily do it perfectly in their project, and I'll give them the rope and I'll really enjoy it. Other times, I don't really know that much about what's going on. I'm not invested in the property. And I can tell they're referencing a thing, that they're depending on knowledge of a thing, or they're depending on a pre-established relationship to really sell this scene in their story. And if I don't know about it, then I'm just like, it doesn't do enough to stand on its own. And I don't know what the right answer is when we talk about fan projects. If we're talking about it, if it were the exact same kind of situation applied to a movie, like if we did a movie adaptation of Halo, I'm not going to say, that it's acceptable that if you know the games and there's a scene in the movie that doesn't make any goddamn sense, but if you know the games it does. I just would say that's straight up unacceptable. In a fan project, I can't say it's unacceptable because, yeah, that's kind of what it's there for. But at the same time, part of, I think, the reason you do a fan project is you're trying to show, on some level, what the characters, what this universe can do in another medium or in other things. Like, Halo is a video game. It's been rumored for movies for years, but it is a video game first. And the fan base for it, I know have wanted a movie. And so obviously the people that made this fan film want to do Halo on film. But then part of that becomes you're kind of making the pitch by doing this. And so if you can't make a general audience empathize or get really invested in the franchise, then you're not necessarily doing it any favors. So really, this just kind of becomes a thing for people who are fans of the franchise and have really wanted a film. And ultimately, if you're okay with that as the end result, as opposed to trying to get other people into it through your love of the franchise through film as opposed to video games, that's fine. That is ultimately fine, but it just doesn't necessarily work for me.
I would 100% agree with that. When discussing fan films, I have been trying to figure out where to lean on that, because if we're just talking about being an official adaptation, you do have to find that sweet spot of adapting something that the fans will be excited for and appreciate and love, while at the same time reaching out to people who never heard of it. Like when you make an X-Men movie, you have to, reach people who have maybe vaguely heard of the X-Men and, entertain them on one level, while at the same time, like, being there for the fans who have been, like, there from birth. And you're right, with fan films, I haven't figured that out for myself either. Mm-hmm. Because these are made for fans, possibly most likely for fans.
By fans for fans, yeah. Yeah,
by fans for fans. And maybe it is okay that there is something just lost on a casual viewer, but I don't know. When I review these things, I keep bringing my critic's hat that I would use for anything. Mm-hmm.
It puts it in a really weird place, doesn't it?
Yeah, where I feel guilty about not liking something that really wasn't aimed for me. But I don't know. I still, in the back of my head, keep going, no, I mean, I should, watching this from beginning, middle to end, I should, have some sort of enjoyment derived from it. Mm-hmm. And this does not. And he finds that artifact. I'm sure it means something. I'm sure it's very key to, like, this franchise. I don't know. There was so much lost on me on this. Mm-hmm. And if this was like, an episode of, like, a sci-fi series based on Halo, I would not watch episode 2 based on this, because there just would not be enough character, and I think that's the thing. I tend to lean pretty heavy on character, because if you find a character enjoyable, they kind of grab onto you. You kind of have some sort of personal connection with a character. You can actually even slug through a dry story.
I mean, have you ever watched Doctor Who?
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
I have read and watched, okay stories or cliched stories, and still come away enjoying it because, like, I like the character. They got me through it.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And there's nobody really in this film that I was able to kind of, like, warm up to at all. I mean, maybe the AI character, was the closest one I could kind of get into. And we're not even following her for the whole movie. I mean, we're following the guy.
Yeah.
And I can't. I mean, he's the guy who I think wrote and directed this.
Yep.
And Wade Wojcik. And I just can't. I couldn't latch on to him as a character. I see him going through stuff, but that's kind of it. I just no. But it was rather difficult. I did have to watch this a couple of times because this was so deeply entrenched in being procedural. Just we do this, we do this, we do this, and we're gonna wait.
Before we get too far away from...
and I had to watch it a couple times to make sure I understood what was going on. It's a fairly simple story, and I just I literally kept zoning out of it.
Same for me. I kept having to stop myself from checking my phone. But before we get too far away from character, I want to bring up two things that I thought of while watching this. Or not even while watching it, I thought of as we started to discuss it. So the first one is, we keep talking about the fact that the characters aren't really written in any significant way. They're just kind of present and don't have much life to them. Mm-hmm. And you know what that reminded me of?
No, what?
Godzilla 2014. Because that was one of the things thrown at that movie is it was marketed with Bryan Cranston and everything, and then we ended up following the son character, and he's just this military guy, and he's just so flat in comparison to everyone else in the movie, and it felt, and I've heard Godzilla fans talk about it, and kind of the argument that gets thrown around is, well, he's a military guy. He's supposed to, keep his emotions in check and get the job done. And I'm sure there are people who find that really compelling and all, but it just doesn't work. And that's kind of how I felt here is yes, this does feel very in line with kind of the whole military thing. I mean, the first Halo game is called Halo Combat Evolved. So, that makes sense that it's supposed to be very rigid, military stuff.
Yeah.
But it makes it so hard to connect to from a viewership perspective. And that kind of leads me into the other thing with it that I thought of. Halo's an FPS. Halo's a first-person shooter. Kind of the whole thing with those is... you're supposed to kind of lose yourself in them, get wrapped up in the emotions and the frustration of playing it, and you fill in the character. Everyone in an FPS says, you, private, they call you out by class, they use secondary pronouns and stuff like that, because it's meant to just be you are the character, you're the one experiencing it. So when you try to take the experience of being removed from the thing away, you lose something there. When you're just watching it as opposed to experiencing it, you lose any kind of character connection, I feel.
It's so funny you mentioned Godzilla. Because I wasn't thinking of the 2014 Godzilla. But I was thinking of the recent Netflix Godzilla film, the first one.
There are 3 of those now?
Yeah, there are 3. I haven't invested in the second 2 because the first one bored me to tears. Because the characters are military soldier guys, and there's very little character to them. And there's a lot of padding to the point where we get to the exciting stuff at the end. And there's really nothing to them, besides their shared situation of losing Earth and having to flee it and come back, and they don't like it. But I mean, there's nothing about their characters that kind of grabbed me, which is why I find the first of those Godzilla films so boring. it's bad. And it also doesn't help that the animation is terrible. But the story, like I just cared about these people whose planet blew up, but not planet blew up, but had to evacuate their planet because of monsters. Like, you should be able to get me on board with them, but you don't, because they're boring, and that's just how it is. And you make a good point about bringing up that argument, and and now that I think about it, I had seen that kind of thing where we have these kind of stoic, very wooden kind of soldier characters that we've been seeing here and there, and just because. I don't know. It's just because that's the type of guy, you still have to make an interesting movie. You still have to, it's fiction. You still have to get us on board. And the fact that they're soldiers trained to do a thing, that's not, I don't know. I think that's a flimsy excuse. Because Saving Private Ryan is a great war film. It's all about those soldiers. That is characters up the ass. Mm-hmm. That you can all grab onto. Like shit, even the random characters that get killed instantly in some scenes.
That fucking guy that gets shot in the helmet and survives, and he's like, "Oh my god!" And they're like, "Oh, you're a lucky son of a bitch." And then he gets shot in the head again.
Yeah,
Spielberg's a sick fuck sometimes.
He is, and that's true to that life. So I don't know. I've heard people bring that up, and I don't know. That's an excuse, not an argument. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I was oddly reminded of another Godzilla film, which I think is more boring than 2014.
Yeah, but anyway, to get back to the fan film itself, so I think you and I are really on the same page for why we feel disconnected to this, but I really don't mean to be overly negative because while I didn't enjoy the film, I don't think I'd say it's bad.
No.
I really don't want to give that impression that I'm just sitting here ragging on the thing because I feel like it's really well made. They use visual effects integration really well. You can obviously tell it's CG, but it's not laughable.
It's pretty strong CG. If you want to get into positives, I'm totally into going there right now. Yeah,
totally. I really like a lot of the CG integration. I thought it worked well. I like the animation that they used for the AI before she took on the human form. All those cute, all these squares make a circle. I thought that was really cool to see. Just how that was working out. It just looked really neat. I've seen a billion AIs and they all do different things, but just the visual representation of that was kind of neat. I liked the readouts, the technical stuff, the spaceships, the laser beams. And then the thing is, they used it really smartly because a lot of the scenes are actually just guys sitting in a ship or guys walking through the forest. They really did, they chose the manner in which they were going to present their eye candy shots really, really well. And that's something that a lot of fan projects just don't think to do. They get I feel like they get that is where often the amateur side of the amateur filmmaker comes out because sometimes they're so giddy to have visual effects that they can't help but use them too much or over play them. Whereas this, I thought handled it really, really well, where it's just nice and eased in and it feels appropriate. It doesn't draw attention to itself, so it feels really welcome when you get it.
I would agree, definitely. The use of cinematography, the use of effects. I will give this the compliment I don't give every week, but there are times where I forgot this was a fan film and kind of forgot that it wasn't an official release. Mm-hmm. It's really close. I'd say maybe it's a little bit. If the budget was slightly bigger, this really looks almost like a sci-fi original series.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
if you told, if you, especially like maybe just a few years ago, like one of the ones where Sci-Fi Channel tries, and tries to do it like a legit adaptation of something. It came really close to those kind of levels, and all the technical people really kind of nailed it. Like you mentioned the locations. Yeah, I mean, something as simple as location scouting, I think is done very well here.
I mean, it did the classic, right? It went to a rock quarry. You gotta love it. It's the classic sci-fi planet. You go to a rock quarry.
Of course.
And it looks perfect. It's exactly what an alien planet should look like, right? It's perfect. And it's not even that it's like the general alien planet. It's a crash site. It's a crater. Yeah, that's great. That's exactly what, in my mind, a crater might look like. I've never been to one. Actually, I take that back. So nothing to do with anything, but when I was very young and we were on a road trip to the Grand Canyon, we saw a sign for meteor crater 30 miles this way, and we're like, oh, we gotta go see that, a crater where a meteor landed. That's so cool. We get there, it's a fucking hole in the ground. It's like, god damn it, this is so boring. Anyway, I mean, the funny part about that is it was a trip to the Grand Canyon, which is a bigger hole in the ground. But regardless, so the choice there, it's a good choice. It's a good choice. There's smart filmmaking going on here. I think the way in which this suffers is the writing, but the filmmaking really does make up for a lot of that, because God, if this were like really shoddily made, I don't think I'd been able to finish it.
Yeah, this would have been trouble. I mean, some simple shots of them in the spaceship. There's thought into some of the angles, in the cinematography, and just simple guys sitting there shots. Because I've seen really static shots in fan films and even professional films. That are really boring to look at, and he was really thoughtful on all those kind of shots, and as well as the costuming looks really good. Everybody looks kind of comfortable in their roles too. All the various soldiers he runs into in the pilot, she seems authentic. Everybody seems really authentic and comfortable, which also goes a long way to selling this.
Yeah, I really agree. It does it feels like very natural. It feels like you could make a series out of this. One of the things I really liked, just visual-wise, was the visor on the main character's helmet. How it would just kind of go from being clear to straight blacked out, and you couldn't see his face anymore. I thought that was a really cool look. I could really see, like, it's done just plainly here. It's just kind of like presented, this is what it looks like. But I could see kind of like the suit up montage in a proper movie, and that kind of being the effect, like the Iron Man mask coming down kind of moment,
Yeah.
So I just thought it was cool. It was well integrated. It looked nice. And when like the MacGuffin charges him up and he's able to shoot a super blast at the tank and fucking destroy it. It was kind of cool. I was like, all right, that's pretty neat. There's some just cool visuals and stuff, and I really like that. The crawler tank was cool. Shit's neat.
Yep. Like tanks with legs are always interesting.
Yeah, it's so unpractical, but so cool.
It just always works for me, and
I just go back to the AT-ATs in Star Wars Episode 5 where they're fucking taken out with a rope. It's too much. The Halo franchise has always seemed just like a little a little cool. I remember playing like multiplayer on the first Halo game with some friends at one point. And there's like the gun that you shoot a bunch of like crystals at people, and we call it like the Needler or something like that. It's just Halo's just got kind of a cool aesthetic to it. I was kind of hoping that the MacGuffin was going to be the energy sword, because those are always fucking cool. I think I have one on the Geeky Gentleman set in the image, the Halo energy sword. I know I got the Cloud Buster sword and the Keyblade. I don't know if I have the Halo energy sword on the set or not.
Let me ask you something.
Sure.
And this is speculation. You mentioned you actually make a great point earlier about why video games like Halo really connect with people, where they have trouble adapting them into films, these first-person kind of games. Because, they make you the character. They very wisely make you the character. So you're thinking, well, I'm a cool person. I'm obviously a great character. And, you react and think in the way you react and think, and you kind of connect with the franchise this way. But when you do a film, you kind of take all that out. Do you think it would be an interesting idea to make, maybe not so much Halo, but either Halo or another game like this into a film, and go maybe the route of Hardcore Henry?
I feel like it's too much of a gimmick at that point, and since you're not in control of it, you're still losing the most important part. Like, the thing about video games is there's actually like some science into this, and so I don't want to go into it too much, but like, so you struggle for hours in a video game and you collect the shiny, right?
Yeah.
And that's a really good feeling when you get the shiny in a video game. And the reason for that is because even though logically you know that the shiny is nothing, your life has not improved in any meaningful way when you collect the shiny in the video game, but your brain's fucking evolved for millions of years to understand that if you struggle and you work really hard and put a lot of energy into getting a thing, and then that thing is a reward, then it is like very valuable to you. And so it's a very base chemical interaction in your brain that releases epinephrine and causes this feeling of euphoria. So really, even though the awards in video games are fake, they feel real to you. And so when you try to take that experience and just, we'll do the Hardcore Henry thing and we'll just shoot it like it's a video game, it's not the same thing, because you're not the one controlling it. You're not the one putting in the energy for it. You're just changing where a camera is. So that's the distinction. It's not just about you're seeing it from the character's perspective. It's about you're doing it. And so that's why like people complain about games being too easy. Like if you want a really bad experience, get a game, and we don't have cheat codes anymore, but get a game, put in 1,000,000 cheat codes right off the bat that make you invincible and unstoppable and give you unlimited ammo and yada yada yada. You'll be done playing the game in like an hour, and not just because you've probably already beaten it. It's just really boring when you don't have that struggle to overcome. And that's why like the things like invincibility and stuff tend to be a reward after you've already beaten the game, because then you've actually invested the time and it feels good even though there's no more challenge left. Is the interesting way to look at it. But that's a completely different thing, separated from the fan film itself, so I don't want to get into it too much more.
Yeah, man, I gotta tell you, like I've heard all about people doing cheat codes and going into God mode and stuff like that, and why do it? Why even bother playing the game? Like, just imagine doing it, and you're done. You don't have to spend like an hour or two. I guess I don't know. I guess there's this feeling of accomplishment. Like, it's like, yeah, I did that. I was smart and did the cheat codes, because that's how cheaters think. They're not cheaters. They're just smart. So I don't know. Maybe that's it. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Like, I don't play video games because, first off, I do not have the time. I don't know how anybody spends, 38 hours on a game. I don't like, I barely have enough time to watch a 2-hour movie. Much less, like spend like a whole week trying to like get a coin or something. And two, I do have terrible temper when it comes to video games. I am one of those guys who will like just throw the game across the room. Like,
man, you really should start a gaming channel. I would watch the shit out of your videos if you get really upset.
Oh,
I would be so hyped for that.
I am not pretty. I am not pretty when I get that upset.
Oh man, Manos, like, I really want you to play Getting Over It on your channel. I will help you set up the screen recording. I will be there for the entire experience. I'll be the little angel on your shoulder. But anyway, I think we're really off track on the fan film, and I did want to make sure to mention a couple other things.
Sure,
I thought the actress playing the AI actually did a pretty good job selling the few like scenes she had, because she had to do a lot through just voice, and I think she communicated a certain distance in the vocal performance that I thought really added something, so that like it made seeing her appear as like humanoid again, it made that a better reveal. For as much as we were talking about kind of the emotion not being there, I thought that was well handled throughout. And then just one other thing with the characters, I like how the pilot just keeps being like, I can fix it, but it's gonna take time, and you're not giving me time, and so it keeps breaking. Like, it's just, I really liked that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just, it felt very McCoy almost, not McCoy, Scotty, sorry, and that
Scotty.
was just cool.
I do find it ironic that the AI character was the character I latched onto the most human character in the story. Because she seems to have like some backstory I can grab onto and kind of relate to. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned the reveal of her kind of taking a physical form, and then just kind of like, chatting with him, like, this was a little bit I don't know, uncomfortable, or just starting to relate to him a little bit better, kind of breaking through all that. I don't know. That's the stuff I dug the most. That's the stuff I came away with the most.
Nice. All right. Well, let's go ahead and go on to ratings. I'll go first and kind of set the tone. I didn't really connect with this, but I can't deny that there's a lot of skill here, mainly on a technical level. Just on a filmmaking level, I thought it was well shot, well made. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 energy swords that always looked really cool.
Yep.
It's hard to do a sci-fi energy sword, not have it just look like a lightsaber with Halo, so I got to give him some props for that.
Yeah, you either have to come up with something really cleverly unique, or just go, fuck it, I'll just make it look like a lightsaber. Who cares? And both, I think, are legit options. So I also agree. The script is really dry and unemotional. I just had a lot of trouble kind of relating to it. It didn't really draw me in as a non-fan to the point where it could make me a fan. With that said, it looks beautiful. It's extremely well shot. I can tell there's a lot of detail and love going into the film. And there are some the acting, I think, is more or less pretty good by the whole cast. It seems believable, especially the AI character. But yeah, the script just leaves me very cold. So I would have to give it also 3 out of 5 silver thingies found in the dirt that probably mean something.
Nice. Okay, well, next week, I keep feeling like changing it up, just trying to branch out from fan films a little bit. So we'll be talking about another fan-made comic, and this is actually an American comic character. Normally when we do fan comics, it's Dragon Ball fan mangas, but here we are. We have an American comic. And these are some Spider-Man comics written and drawn by... I'm going to try not to screw up the name. Hannah Blumenreich, maybe? Very German looking. And they're on her blog, her website or something. You can just search Spidey Zine and find it. I'll definitely put a link in the description for the next episode so people can check that out. Anyway, until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Realist.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.